Artists are fundamentally placemakers. Towns literally change when you bring artists to the center of them, and change profoundly. So any plan that addresses economic growth and community revitalization has to include the arts, because people no longer migrate to where businesses are. Today, businesses move to where the people are. It's the field of dreams in reverse. If you come, they will build it. In a world that increasingly allows us to work from anywhere, why does a person choose to live somewhere? The answer is in the things in life that have to be consumed in person, in place, and in real time. In survey after survey, people report that they choose a hometown based on access to good education and excellent culture. But beyond making a town desirable, the arts do something more, something that Jeremy Nowak, Mark Stern, and Susan Seifert from the Reinvestment Fund and the University of Pennsylvania have been studying in Philadelphia and Baltimore. There are three general conclusions that stand out. One, the arts are a force for social cohesion and civic engagement. Arts participants are much more likely to engage in civic activities beyond the arts. They vote, they volunteer, and as community participation increases measurably, the result is more stable neighborhoods. Two, the arts make a major difference in child welfare. Income groups with high cultural participation were more than twice as likely to have low truancy and juvenile delinquency rates. And three, art is a poverty fighter. Artists form clusters. Cultural institutions spring up near them. Arts lovers gravitate to them. Businesses follow. Businesses hire. The virtuous cycle continues. The arts do this directly by employing arts workers, and they also have a multiplier effect. I think of the dry cleaner next to the Lyric Opera, or the parking lot attendant next to the Peoria Symphony, or the bar owner next to a theater just about anywhere. In addition to increasing civic engagement, social cohesion, and child welfare, the arts also contribute to quality of life, foment creativity and innovation, create neighborhood identity, and revitalize local economies. And besides, the arts are also fun, magical, and transporting. That is the combination of arguments that has been gaining traction as I take it around Washington. The arguments that I've offered to the cabinet secretaries, and that has led them to start formally recognizing the role that the arts can play in their respective daily work. The cuckoo bird lays its eggs in other birds' nests. And I like to think of the arts as eggs that I'm leaving in nests all over town, that hopefully the cabinet secretaries will start caring for as their own. But I haven't ceded the NEA's responsibility as arts champions. We have important work of our own to do. Unlike the other agencies that care chiefly about the instrumental benefits of the arts, we need to make sure that we're supporting arts organizations to do what they are meant to do, make and present art. But there's no reason that I cannot support arts organizations that are fulfilling that mission of making and presenting art, that are also recognizing the contributions that they can make toward an even greater civic good. And it is that desire, that impulse to support artist citizens, that led me to propose a new funding program at the NEA, a $5 million initiative called Our Town. It's called Our Town because our town is a play. And I'm a theater guy, so it's one of my perks as chairman of the NEA, I get to name things. One of the few things I get to do unilaterally. But it's also called Our Town to highlight the place-based nature of the arts. We will be making investments in 35 communities that are supporting their own artist citizens and welcoming the role that the arts can play in helping cities and towns become the most vibrant and sustainable places possible. And I'm not proposing Our Town in a vacuum. We have a track record of this work at the NEA. For almost 25 years, the NEA has run the Mayor's Institute of City Design, MICD we always call it, which we do with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the American Architectural Foundation. During each institute, a small group of mayors comes together with a team of design professionals to tackle the real-world problems with which each mayor is wrestling. This is an opportunity for these mayors to spend 3 days thinking of themselves as their city's chief urban designers. Historically, the NEA has been there to help the mayors recognize the role that the arts can play in building a livable, sustainable community. And last January, I announced that we would bring something new to the table. We launched a new funding program called MICD 25 that in many ways serves as a pilot for the work we would like to do with our town. We invested in 21 cities and towns that were reusing abandoned or underutilized spaces, commissioning public art, planning cultural districts, or designing new infrastructure. In each case, the arts were front and center in a partnership that involved city government, arts organizations, and the private sector. If you visit our website, arts.gov, you can see write-ups of all 21 projects. But let me just focus on 3 illustrative projects at this moment. First, the mayor of Memphis, Tennessee, is using his NEA grant to conduct the pre-development of an artist live-work space in the city's South Main Arts District. It is contracting art space projects to lead a study surveying the musicians, artists, and arts organizations in the city to better understand the needs of the community, including how much performance, rehearsal, and storage space is needed. Following this pre-development work, an architectural team will be selected for projects that will serve an estimated 7,500 people in the creative community. The second project is in Greensboro, North Carolina. In 2009, the nonprofit Action Greensboro, North Carolina, teamed with the city of Greensboro on creating a multi-use trail that winds through residential neighborhoods and business districts to literally encircle and define its downtown. We were there a few weeks ago and walked through it. With its MICD 25 grant, Action Greensboro is funding public art installations as part of the renovation of an abandoned railroad underpass that links an economically disadvantaged part of the city to its center. The art will include the design and fabrication of 12 decorative iron gates that go along the underpass and huge graphic panels to be installed behind them depicting Greensboro's history. Artists will also create light installations to illuminate the entire area. Number 3, Madison, Wisconsin, where I went to college, is developing a major park in the center of this city. With our money, environmental artist Lorna Jordan is working with the design team to integrate public art into the construction of Central Park, and she's also working on the park's green infrastructure. The park is the lowest elevation point in the city, as well as sitting on top of a capped brownfield. Jordan will help solve the rainwater runoff and drainage issues, and her solutions may prove invaluable to mayors across the country that are dealing with brownfield reclamation. These are exactly the sort of projects that we will also hope to support through our town, and exactly the sorts of projects that are appealing to our sister agencies. For instance, HUD in Memphis, DOT in Greensboro, DEP in Madison. And I'm here today for a very specific reason. Every conversation that I have with agency heads and key members of Congress eventually comes around to one version or another of the same question: what's happening in the private sector? Fortunately, I have an in-house, and I mean in-house literally, advisor on this subject, my wife, Debbie. She spent her career in philanthropy, and the day after my nomination, she literally had me on the phone calling the heads of the major arts funding foundations. My hope is that during the coming year, these conversations will start to produce actual joint initiatives between the NEA and arts grantmakers. In fact, we are already underway. One example, a new member of GIA is here today. Heidi, where are you? There you are. Heidi Ettinger, whom I should probably disclose was once known as Heidi Landesman, but that's another speech, is a board member of the Educational Foundation of America. And EFA has recently begun to look at their grant making with a view to finding ways to make it more impactful and more strategic in its scope. And EFA has just announced grants in Hartford, Connecticut, and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to complement and extend the Mayor's Institute grants that were made there. And there's every indication that taken together, our grants, which are about the same in size actually, will be catalysts for additional support from both the public and private sectors in those cities. This is exactly the sort of symbiotic momentum that I'm hoping can significantly ratchet up the level of funding for the arts in this country. Some of my new foundation colleagues are very engaged with this notion of creative placemaking and the ways that we can use the arts to help shape the physical, social, and economic character of towns and places all over the country. In fact, many of you have been doing this for a long time before I started drinking the Kool-Aid. I think if we invest together, using a shared framework, there will be a huge benefit with even more new resources being unlocked for the arts. The conversation about a more formal collaboration is still in its early stages. But if our work with the other federal agencies is any indication, lately I've been going around the NEA and saying, we're going awfully fast. This would take years in the private sector. If our work with the other federal agencies is any indication, then what we're starting to talk about, what the people in this room, what we can do together, as we're already starting to envision it now, well, then already I can't wait for next year's speech to you. In short, art works. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks.